Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. On the remote planet of Terra Nova, a distant colony on the edge of human expansion, the air hung heavy with the scent of sand and metal. The planet, a desolate and harsh environment, had always seemed indifferent to the human presence. Terra Nova was a place of both opportunity and danger, a land where humanity had eked out a living, mining the rich resources buried beneath the surface. But it was also a place full of mysteries, relics of a time long before humans ever set foot there. Ethan Carter, a young and determined engineer, had always been fascinated by these ancient remnants. The wastelands, a vast, barren desert that stretched beyond the horizon, were dotted with the remains of structures from a forgotten civilization. These ruins held secrets that whispered to those who dared to listen, and Ethan had always been one of those who couldn't resist the call. It was in these very ruins that Ethan found himself one fateful day, conducting routine maintenance on a series of ancient power conduits that had been discovered buried deep beneath the sands. The sun beat down mercilessly as Ethan wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes narrowing against the glare. The ruins were half buried in the dunes, only the tops of their spires visible above the shifting sands. The facility he worked for, a small research outpost on the edge of the wastelands, had been studying these structures for years, but so far, their secrets had remained stubbornly hidden. But today, something felt different. Ethan's tools clinked as he worked, his hands moving with practiced ease over the ancient machinery. He had spent countless hours studying the alien technology, learning its nuances and quirks. Despite the centuries that had passed since their construction, the machines still seemed alive, humming with a faint, almost imperceptible energy. It was this energy that had always intrigued Ethan the most. It was as if the ruins themselves were waiting for something, or someone. As he finished his work and prepared to return to the outpost, Ethan's gaze was drawn to a peculiar structure partially uncovered by the shifting sands. It was massive, much larger than any of the other ruins he had seen, and its surface was smooth, almost organic, unlike the harsh, angular lines of the other buildings. Curiosity piqued, Ethan approached the structure, brushing away the sand that clung to its surface. As he did, he felt a strange sensation, like a static charge prickling along his skin. The structure, as it turned out, was not a building at all, but a massive, dormant robot. Its form was humanoid, towering over Ethan even as it lay half buried in the sand. The robot was made of an unknown alloy, its surface unmarred by the passage of time. As Ethan ran his hand along its smooth exterior, he felt a connection, a sense that this machine was not merely a relic, but something more, a sleeping giant waiting to be awakened. Ethan quickly called in his discovery to the outpost, and within hours, a team of scientists and engineers had arrived to examine the robot. The initial excitement was palpable, but it soon gave way to frustration as the team struggled to understand the machine. The robot was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Its systems were beyond their comprehension, and no one could figure out how to activate it. Days turned into weeks as the team worked tirelessly to unlock the robot's secrets. But despite their best efforts, the giant remained lifeless, an enigma wrapped in an impenetrable shell. The colony's leaders grew impatient, their attention turning to more immediate concerns. Word had reached Terra Nova that an alien fleet had been detected on the outer edges of the star system, an invasion force from the Zorathian Empire, a warlike species known for their brutality. Panic spread through the colony as the news broke. Terra Nova was a small, isolated outpost, with only a modest defense force. The Zorathians were vastly more powerful, their technology far more advanced. The colony's defenses, which had never been tested in battle, were woefully inadequate to face such a threat. The prospect of evacuation was discussed, but the logistics were nightmarish, and many feared they would not escape in time. In the midst of this growing crisis, Ethan found himself drawn back to the robot. He couldn't shake the feeling that the key to their survival lay within the giant's dormant form. Late one night, unable to sleep, he returned to the wastelands alone, driven by a sense of urgency he couldn't explain. The wind howled around him as he approached the robot, the sand swirling in eddies at his feet. The air was thick with static, and Ethan's skin tingled as he reached out to touch the robot's surface. As his hand made contact, a surge of energy coursed through him, stronger than anything he had ever felt before. It was as if the robot was alive, reaching out to him, trying to communicate. Ethan stumbled back, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the connection now, a bond between him and the machine that defied explanation. It wasn't just a piece of technology, it was something more, something alive. And it was trying to wake up. Over the next few days, Ethan devoted himself to understanding this connection. He spent every waking moment in the wastelands, working on the robot, trying to decipher its systems. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day, and slowly, Ethan began to learn how to control the machine. It was a painstaking process, requiring immense concentration and mental fortitude. The robot systems were far more advanced than anything Ethan had ever encountered, and each attempt to activate it left him drained, both physically and mentally. Ethan's obsession with the robot did not go unnoticed. His mentor, Dr. Olivia Grant, a seasoned expert in ancient technologies, grew concerned for his well-being. She had always been supportive of Ethan's work, but she could see the toll it was taking on him. One evening, she confronted him in the research lab, her voice filled with worry. "Ethan, you can't keep pushing yourself like this," Olivia said, her brow furrowed with concern. "You're going to burn out. Whatever connection you have with that machine, it's dangerous. You need to be careful." "I know, Olivia," Ethan replied, his voice tinged with exhaustion. "But I can't stop now. I feel like I'm so close to unlocking its full potential. This robot, it's the key to everything. If we can control it, we can protect the colony from the Zorathians. We might be our only hope." Olivia sighed, her eyes softening. She could see the determination in Ethan's eyes, the fire that drove him forward. "Just promise me you'll be careful," she said finally. "We need you, Ethan. The colony needs you." "I will," Ethan promised, though he wasn't entirely sure he could keep that promise. The connection between him and the robot was growing stronger every day, but so was the strain on his mind and body. The robot was awakening, and with it came a power unlike anything Ethan had ever imagined. As the days passed, the Zorathian fleet drew closer, their intentions unmistakable. The colony's defenses were hastily bolstered, but everyone knew it wouldn't be enough. The Zorathians were ruthless, and they would stop at nothing to conquer Terra Nova. Finally, the day came when the Zorathian fleet arrived in orbit around Terra Nova. The sky above the colony darkened as their massive warships descended, blotting out the sun. The ground trembled as the first waves of Zorathian troops began their assault, overwhelming the colony's defenses with terrifying speed. In the chaos that followed, Ethan knew that the time had come. He made his way to the wastelands, where the giant robot lay waiting. As he approached, he could feel the connection between them flare to life, stronger than ever before. The robot was awake, and it was ready. With a deep breath, Ethan reached out, his hand trembling as it made contact with the robot's surface. The energy surged through him, more powerful than anything he had ever experienced. It was as if the robot's consciousness was merging with his own, their minds becoming one. For a moment, Ethan was overwhelmed by the sheer force of the connection. The robot systems were a dizzying array of inputs and outputs, a vast network of circuits and algorithms that stretched far beyond his comprehension. But slowly, with immense effort, he began to impose his will on the machine, guiding it, directing it. The robot's eyes flickered to life, glowing with a brilliant blue light. Its massive limbs, dormant for centuries, began to move, shaking off the sand that had covered them. Ethan could feel the power coursing through the robot's body, a surge of energy that filled him with both awe and fear. The Zorathian troops, already wreaking havoc on the colony, turned their attention to the wastelands as the ground began to tremble beneath their feet. They saw the giant rising from the sands, its form towering over the battlefield, and for the first time, they hesitated. With a deafening roar, the robot fully awakened, its systems humming with life. Ethan, now fully connected to the machine, could see the battlefield through its eyes, could feel its immense power at his fingertips. The robot was more than just a weapon, it was a living being, an extension of his own will. The Zorathians launched their attack, their weapons blazing as they attempted to bring down the giant. But the robot was too powerful, too fast. Ethan guided it with precision, its massive arms swatting away enemy ships as if they were flies. The robot's weaponry, far more advanced than anything the colony possessed, tore through the Zorathian forces, decimating their ranks. The battle raged on, the ground shaking with each step the robot took. Ethan's mind was fully immersed in the machine, the bond between them now unbreakable. He could feel the robot's thoughts, its instincts guiding his actions. Together, they were unstoppable, but the strain of controlling such a powerful machine was immense. Ethan could feel his strength waning, his body and mind pushed to their limits. The connection was so intense that it felt as if the robot was draining his very life force, drawing on his energy to fuel its immense power. As the Zorathians began to fall back, their forces decimated by the giant's relentless assault, Ethan knew he had to finish the fight. With a final surge of energy, he directed the robot to the heart of the Zorathian fleet, its massive fists tearing through the enemy ships with devastating force. The Zorathians, realizing they were no match for the giant, began to retreat, their warships fleeing into the depths of space. The battle was over. Terra Nova was saved. But as the last of the Zorathian ships disappeared from view, Ethan felt the connection between him and the robot begin to fade. The giant, its purpose fulfilled, slowly powered down, its eyes dimming as it returned to its dormant state. Ethan collapsed to the ground, his body trembling with exhaustion. He had given everything he had to control the robot, and now he felt empty, drained. The victory was bittersweet, the colony was safe, but the cost had been high. As the dust settled and the survivors of the battle began to emerge, Ethan stood before the giant, its form now silent and still. The robot, once a relic of a forgotten past, had become a symbol of hope and strength for the colony. But Ethan knew that the bond he had shared with the machine was not something to be taken lightly. The power it held was immense, but so was the responsibility that came with it. In the days that followed, the colony began to rebuild, the damage from the Zorathian attack slowly being repaired. Ethan was hailed as a hero, the man who had awakened the giant and saved Terra Nova. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the robot's true purpose had yet to be fully revealed. The connection they had shared, the power he had wielded, it was only the beginning. As he stood before the giant one last time, Ethan couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the machine held, what other challenges lay ahead. The robot, now a guardian of Terra Nova, seemed to watch over the colony, its presence a reminder of the power and mystery that still lay hidden within the wastelands. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert. Ethan placed his hand on the robot's cold, metallic surface, feeling the faintest trace of energy still lingering within. He knew that one day, the giant would awaken again, and when that time came, he would be ready. For now, though, the giant would rest, and so would Ethan. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. The galaxy was vast, and there were many more threats out there, waiting in the darkness. But with the giant by his side, Ethan knew that he would face whatever came next with courage and determination. The giant had awakened, and so had Ethan. Together, they had saved Terra Nova, but their journey was only just beginning.